Poczekał do kara 9 metra wykonania, staną 3, staną 5, ma zapewniała. Będę złapał ile se tutaj jeden na Rodowi, ustawi 2, na dalej Absolwenta, ustawi 6, powienica, Memorial Boris Hanžeković Memorial, sobie, jego deka, powienica, Paweł, Clayton, i drugie, upowiednik Absolwenta. Ile można na pewno miejscu Ema zapewniała, prezydent zdobył 2, 6 Elena Kelly, prezydent 16.
A predazione solo i tecnici discipline facevano scoda, facevano forza operazioni predstavnika koji se Zagreb Showdown su Marko Čeko i Pratica. Nešto dalje od vas da ste vidjeli Vitu Barbić i Sanaru Kovac koji će nastupiti u bazi
The record beating Russell Clayton from Jamaica, 53-54.
53.54 seconds. That number won the race in Zagreb. But here is the part worth examining. It was not Clayton's top speed that separated her from the field. By the 200-meter mark, at least 2 other athletes were within striking distance on raw velocity alone. So what actually decided this race? The answer is in the mechanics. Specifically, what happens in the 40 milliseconds between clearing a hurdle and landing. The women's 400-meter hurdles demands more than sprint speed. It demands that an athlete hold technical precision through 10 barriers, while lactic acid builds and stride length contracts. Most hurdlers can do that for 6 or 7 hurdles. The elite ones, the ones running 53-second races, do it for all 10, plus the 40 meters after. Watch what Clayton does differently, and you will understand why the field could not close the gap when it mattered. The race at the Boris Hanžeković Memorial was not decided at the gun. Clayton's reaction time off the blocks was 0.142 seconds. Solid, not exceptional. Couckuyt broke 0.138 off the blocks, and Shamir Little was marginally faster still. Clayton surrendered the first split. By the 100-meter mark, her lead was essentially 0. The race was still wide open. Here is what nobody expected. The hurdler who lost the opening exchange would go on to build a margin the others could not recover. One detail from the data stuck with me. Clayton's stride count to the first hurdle was 17, a 3-step approach from a dominant lead leg. Committing to that same pattern, every race removes one variable from the calculation at exactly the moment when cognitive load is highest. By hurdle 3, something measurable had shifted. Clayton's hurdle clearance angle was approximately 12 degrees, low, aggressive, prioritizing forward momentum over vertical height. The physics matter here. Every centimeter of unnecessary height adds time in the air and delays the next ground contact. At elite pace, 40 milliseconds of airtime per hurdle compounds across 10 barriers into roughly 0.4 seconds of lost race time if the clearance is inefficient. Clayton minimized that loss at every barrier. Couckuyt, running a personal best of 54.32, showed slightly higher clearance arcs, not dramatically so, but measurably enough that the difference showed up in her transition steps. The transition step is the one that lands after a hurdle clearance. It should be aggressive, driving forward into the next stride cycle. Clayton's trail leg recovered to a position that let her transition step cover approximately 1.9 meters, close to optimal for her height and stride pattern. Runners who clear hurdles with more vertical arc land with a braking step, absorbing energy rather than redirecting it. At 400-meter hurdles pace, roughly 7.8 to 8.1 meters per second through the middle of the race. A braking transition costs between 0.05 and 0.08 seconds per hurdle. Multiply that by 10. Most people assume the 400-meter hurdles is a sprint with obstacles. The evidence points somewhere else. The event is better understood as a rhythm management problem. Each of the 10 hurdles is a forced disruption of running mechanics, and the athlete's job is to spend as little time recovering from that disruption as possible. Clayton's race in Zagreb was built around minimizing recovery cost, not generating peak velocity. Fatoumata Binta Diallo ran 54.55 for third. She held contact through the first 6 hurdles on raw competitive instinct. So why did the gap open between hurdles 7 and 8 and not earlier? Glycolytic fatigue. At the 280-meter mark, roughly hurdle 7, the phosphocreatine system is fully depleted, and the body is drawing almost entirely on glycolysis. Blood lactate concentration in elite 400-meter hurdlers at this stage typically exceeds 14 millimoles per liter. The muscles are working in an acidic environment, and the first thing to go is stride length. A hurdler whose stride contracts must either take an extra step before a hurdle, changing their lead leg mid-race, or adjust clearance mechanics on the fly. Both cost time. Clayton's conditioning, specifically her lactate tolerance, kept her stride functional through hurdle 9. Put yourself in Shamir Little's position at hurdle 8, 55.44 on the clock by the finish. She came into Zagreb with more international final experience than anyone else in the field. Her early aggression was technically sound, a full-speed approach to the first 4 barriers, lead leg mechanics that are among the cleanest in the world. The problem was not technique, it was the pace she set in the first 200 meters. Running that section in approximately 24.8 seconds created a glycolytic debt that made the final 180 meters increasingly expensive, and the hurdles became obstacles in every sense. Here is the take that will probably draw some disagreement. The 400-meter hurdles rewards conservative openers more consistently than almost any other sprint event. Yet most fields still run the first half at a pace they cannot sustain. The data from Zagreb and from most championship finals shows a consistent pattern. Athletes who run the opening 200 meters in 24.5 to 25.0 seconds finish faster over the back half than those who open in 24.0 to 24.3. Clayton's pacing is not passive. It is calculated aggression applied in the second half, where it actually changes results. What this race teaches is worth carrying into every 400-meter hurdles you watch going forward. The margin does not appear at the gun or at peak speed. It appears after hurdle 7, when lactate accumulates and stride length contracts, and the hurdlers who built their race around technical efficiency, rather than raw velocity between barriers, hold form while others reach and chop. Clayton's 53.54 was not a number she ran through talent alone. It was the output of a race model built on hurdle clearance angle, transition step mechanics, and glycolytic pacing. When you watch the next race, count the steps between barriers 7 and 10. Watch for the athlete who lands low and drives forward. That athlete is almost certainly winning. A question worth leaving you with: is the current trend toward faster first halves in championship races a tactical evolution? Or are coaches setting their athletes up for exactly the kind of collapse we saw from Little and Diallo in the final 2 barriers? If that question interests you, the breakdown of the World Athletics Final is coming next. Subscribe so you do not miss it, and drop your answer in the comments. Does pace strategy or hurdle mechanics matter more over the final 100 meters?